The best way to describe this movie is that it is essentially something Trey Parker and Matt Stone would have probably done if they were 25 years old now. That is the mindset that Lady Ballers have. And yeah, I'm going to be talking about it because the movie doesn't not suck, even though it is wildly mean-spirited in a few places, but still kind of funny in a few others. I'm very conflicted on how I feel about it. So why don't we just dive in to this movie that is largely, arguably, the most controversial film of the year, to be fair. This is the most controversial movie to hit at least the latter half of 2023, because how do you have a movie that is about a bunch of men masquerading as women in order to dominate female sports and make it funny? You don't, because there's really nothing funny about the concept anymore. I mean, this is a kind of movie that largely would have been a thing around the mid 80s with like just one of the guys or just one of the girls or Juwanna Man or things along, like The Ringer, movies like that. That is the idea that it ends up trying to espouse. Comedies that are like 20 to 30 to 40 years old, comedies that you wouldn't normally see in this day and age, which is actually probably one of the reasons why there's elements of this movie that kind of cracked me up a little bit. Like legit physical comedy jokes that made me laugh. Some of the things just happened and they were funny. And I felt bad as I was watching it because I was like, that's how they get you. That's how they get you. They're going to make you laugh. But when they make you laugh, they're going to make you, kind of put aside what it is that they're trying to do, because the movie doesn't nail the message I think it ultimately should have tried to nail, because if it was trying to actually be something that mattered, they would have done something. And I'll talk about that as we get to the end of this, because I'm not going to go full bore into it. There's really not, like, I can't find a lot of information about this movie. That's just why it's more of a spoiler alert review rather than doing a full blown patio commentary, which is something that I kind of want to do on this movie, to go through the whole process. However, not a lot of information on it is found. And even the Wikipedia page that was created for it, I've currently found relegated to the deletion bin, because people out there on Wikipedia just don't want to have any information about this movie available. And that to me is the bad thing. That to me is really the bad thing, because all it's ultimately doing is proving this movie right in the eyes of its supporters. Because the concept of the movie obviously is mocking straight men that are physically more capable of taking on female players in sports, in this case, basketball, and making a mockery of the whole trans movement and everything else. I mean, obviously this is Daily Wire. Obviously that's what you're going to get from Jeremy Boring, who, by the way, this is his like directorial debut. He wrote, co-wrote the screenplay, starred in the movie. This is like a vanity project for everyone over at Daily Wire, because you've got Matt Walsh popping up in the film as kind of like a very super crazy high SJW named Chris, who's like very like lovey-dovey, huggy, emotionally mature male, so to speak. You've got Michael Knowles popping up, and what I think is like either a really severe tan. I don't remember him being that tan skinned, to be honest with you. But then again, when you cater to white people like the way he does, they probably shoot him a little cooler. You've got Brett Cooper in the movie. Candace Owens makes an appearance. Riley Gaines makes an appearance. Ted Cruz makes an appearance. It's kind of the who's who of the right-wing chuckle fuck spear. I mean, that's really what this movie is, what it's trying to play up to. But the core element of the movie is one that I did find intriguing, because I am, I'm a liberal, progressive, whatever. I don't even know if those mean the same thing anymore. I'm a progressive. I'm a Bernie Sanders loving liberal. I think people should be accepted for who they are, whatever you identify as. It doesn't matter. It doesn't mean anything to me, mostly because it's your deal. It's your life. It doesn't impact me at all. I'll do what I can to respect you, obviously. But that's kind of where I have it. That's my take on it. Again, no harm, no shade, no foul. I look at it like, you have your life, I have mine. So I'm looking at this movie through that lens, and I'm trying to understand the messaging here, because I always feel like a movie like this, they're going to start off, they're going to learn something, they're going to change their ways, they're going to come out on the other side better people. That's usually the progression that happens in a movie like this. And they do that like 98% of the way, because here's why the whole thing happens, right? So you got Jeremy Boring's character. He's the coach. He was a three-time state basketball champion for high school. 15 years later, his wife leaves him for the super ultra left-wing SJW, Chris, played by Matt Walsh, and everything else. And his daughter is, in school learning all about like gender fluidity and what all the terms mean and everything else. And everyone is woke, and he gets fired from his job because he tells the students at the rec center that he's teaching at not to steal his catalytic converter. And it's just like, lame attempt at like this lame attempt at a racial joke, so to speak, because the only person that responds to it is a black kid. And he's like, you can't talk to us that way. And then he checks him. He bumps into him, but then drops a circular saw or an electric saw. I'm assuming that has something to do with how catalytic converters are stolen. I don't quite know how that's done, but I feel like that's the joke he's going for. And I'm like, oh man, that's just whatever. And then we see him driving, and he's got, smoke out of his car and everything else. And he starts trying to talk to a woman who's wearing 3 masks. And it's kind of like lame boomer cringe comedy, obviously meant for the audience on Daily Wire Plus, flat out. By the way, I did not pay to see this movie. I was given access to Daily Wire, so I could watch it. But thank you to that person for wasting my time and yours. However, it's like, when he gets into it and he's trying to like impress his daughter, he's trying to become a winner, he's trying to get his wife back. These are all struggles that a lot of people deal with, right? These are relatable struggles. That's why I think his character is somewhat like, you want to go on this journey with him, because at the end you think this is going to be, he's going to come out a changed man on the other side, sort of thing. And as he encounters Alex, one of the former high school students, who is now working in a drag bar and everything. And they decide to play in this local game to see if he can win as being a woman. And that ends up getting the attention of a local reporter who comes out as like pro-trans and pro-equality, diversity and inclusion, all of those things. And behind the scenes, she wants to control the story in order to make herself rich and make him rich, and play this up as something that's never happened before. Send a team of men dressed as women to the global games, basically the Olympics is what they're trying to say, because now they've opened it up to everybody that, your athletic ability means nothing. You have the ability to kind of go in. And this is where like it kind of pulls from The Ringer a little bit. It feels a little bit like basketball. There's some jokes here that kind of land, others that kind of don't, and you can just kind of see like these guys are all kind of lost in their life, and they want to, like they want to win, right? Because I think the slogan of the movie is like, losers are winners who keep losing, or something like, I don't know, it's some weird mantra. So they get the team back together, and there's this weird scene with one of the guys who looks like a knockoff Ike Barinholtz, named David, who has like a PTSD over a guy in a Badger suit, but then it's for what appears to be like 10 years, has had the guy in the Badger suit in his basement tied up. That's never addressed again, necessarily. Very kind of weird plot point there. Something you would have found in the early 2000s, largely. They go through and they're beating all these women, and David kind of has this whole like, should we do this? Is this right? But then immediately, hey, I was just sponsored by Maybelline. And so immediately all this money and all this fame and all this attention happens while they're trying to qualify. And then, the Gwen Wild, she wants it controlled a certain way. And the coach is like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it, necessarily. So she goes off and she does the same thing to another team, and like threatens to cancel or kill the other coach, who then replaces all the other women with just very large black men. And then it's like they beat the crap out of the other guys because they admit like we have no way of beating them. They are better than us by every conceivable metric. So obviously the tables have turned, so on and so forth. And then it's like, you're thinking, okay, here's the moment, right? Here's the moment where it's gonna have that moment. And maybe I was wrong for thinking that, because you have like, the coach come to that conclusion that this is wrong and they shouldn't do this. So he tells the team that they're going to step out and he's going to figure out a way to kind of make it right. And then Alex comes to him, and this is where I think they should have gone a different direction. Alex goes, but what if I am a woman? Like, he's like, I am a woman. Like, this is the most comfortable I've ever felt my whole life. And then instead of like going like, okay, 1 out of 5 is trans in this case, which would be fine. And I think at this point he would have been open enough to that understanding. This is a Daily Wire, conservative movie. So he just goes like, no, you're not. You're a confused guy who's got shitty parents. And he's like, how do you know? And then he just nut checks him. Down Alex goes. And I just thought that was so utterly mean-spirited. You had an inkling of an idea wrapped in a very terrible vest that could have potentially had the moment to like showcase levels of that, right? Levels of humanity, because you're already in a moment where you realize what you're doing is wrong. But again, it's kind of like Barbie, with the way Barbie was with the Kens, right? They get so close to making a revelation, so close to actually saying something progressive, and then they pull back because they don't want to anger their audience. They don't want to anger the core audience, and that's a lot of what this is. So then like the girls come out, the little kids come out, play the other team, and everyone just has fun and the whole thing, whatever. And 9 months later, like now they're back and they're teaching young kids how to play basketball and find themselves for who they are. And at the end, Matt Walsh and Candace Owens are there like overseeing the whole thing. And Matt Walsh is like, in another Matt Walsh adventure, whatever. It's just, when I say on the thumbnail that it doesn't not suck, no. It definitely has its moments of crap. There's a few shining examples of someone trying to be funny in the movie, and it does harken back to an older time period. It reminds me of the movie Loquisha that came out a couple of years ago, and Loquisha was about a white man who needs to raise money for his kid's education, has really good ability at being kind of like like a therapist, right, or like an advice giver. But because he's a straight white male, he can't get the job, so he just pretends to be a black woman named Loquisha. And then it just kind of spirals out from there. But that movie had heart. It had intention. It was not trying to offend. It was trying to be entertaining and tell a story. This movie doesn't get to that point. It tries, but you can tell that all of these wannabe theater geeks that are in this movie, all these wannabe actors, and by that I mean the Daily Wire crew, they want to be those people, but they also know where their bread is buttered. And that's basically what this movie is. I can't say I really recommend it. It's, if anything, a one-time watch, but it's something that, like, if you just want to see like right-wing comedy at probably its most effective, I would say this is probably the movie for you. But anyway, your thoughts, your opinions, let me know down in the comment section. I'll talk to you guys later. Have yourself a great one. Thank you again.